Union of the Unknowns, a podcast dedicated to the exploration of modern culture, presents a weekly digest of current events that may have slipped past your radar. This is not your mama's news.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Not Your Mama's News. I am Ashley, Think, Change, Repeat. I will be your host this evening, and with me, we have a new unknown, Scottski. Hello, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I am happy to have you here. I did want to say that we talked about this a little bit before the show, but I want to shout out Stella because I feel, kind of sad that she's not here with us doing this episode, but she's very missed. But I am happy to have you with us.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, what I was thinking that we could do before we kind of get into the show, I just wanted to let people know that although you're new to the unknowns and to the podcast, you're not new to our Discord and the Propaganda Report Discord,
Right.
where we all came together. And actually, I had someone want to get a little background on how the unknowns ended up coming together. So I'll do that, and then we'll talk about your journey there as well.
Sure.
So the unknowns originated because we were all in the Discord for the Propaganda Report. And we were chatting, and this was kind of during COVID times, and people were getting to know each other. And the Propaganda Report was doing disappearing patron parties, and people would hang out on Saturday or first Friday of the month. And so basically, people were just hanging out in the Discord and became friends. And that was the origin of the Union of the Unknowns. And Scottski has been in the Propaganda Report Discord for a very long time as well. So Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you ended up finding the Propaganda Report?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I was my wife and I, we actually took a road trip out to Colorado to see my sister out there. And then on the way, I was kind of looking for libertarian podcasts, to listen on the way. And I stumbled upon the Prop Report with Monica and Brad. So I really enjoyed listening to that show a lot. And then, listening through that for a bit, Brad one day was like, "Yeah, we got a Discord too." So I have been on a couple other servers, some other groups, and I'm like, "Oh, cool! I'm gonna check the Propaganda Report Discord," and then yeah, the rest is history. Met
Yeah.
a very very like-minded group of people, and always look forward to chatting with you guys every day. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So you just happened to stumble across the Prop Report? Like you didn't find them from another podcast or anything like that? You just found
right,
them?
yeah, I was just
Oh,
going through podcasts looking for new stuff to listen to, and then I found like, hey, this one kind of looks interesting. And then started listening to Monica and Brad. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So
yeah. That's kind of a
yeah.
cool story because almost every other person that I know of or have heard their Prop Report stories has been from finding them from other places, right?
Mhm.
Like, I originally heard Brad on Pete Q's show long time ago.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, I heard Monica on there. And so then after that, I definitely started listening to the Propaganda Report, and it was on from there. And it quickly became like my don't miss number one
Mhm.
favorite podcast.
Yep.
And it's kind of interesting too. I actually thought about doing a re-listen of the show, and even maybe doing like a breakdown podcast of that, of like starting at the beginning of the Prop Report, because that takes you through the January of 2020 where they started talking about COVID in China right away.
Mhm.
So, kind of interesting to think back on that, but the Propaganda Report community was really important for me because I felt very lost, angry.
Mhm.
I didn't understand what was happening. People, like how people couldn't understand how they couldn't see the lies, all of this stuff. So
Right.
it was a difficult time for me personally, and I know a lot of people. So it really helped me get through some hard times, as did the Discord.
Right. Yeah, and just listening to the podcast too, like it kind of opened my eyes with a lot of the stuff out there. Like, hey, I need to look at this through like the propaganda lens. Like, what are they trying to actually tell us?
Exactly.
I always like take stuff with a grain of salt nowadays. Thanks a lot to the podcast. So,
100%. It was an education,
mhm,
because although I was definitely anti-government and especially on the domestic front, when I found the podcast, I was already listening to PQ and Sal Mayweather and
mhm,
stuff like that, but I didn't have the understanding of the propaganda, the Hegelian dialectic of creating situations to get a certain reaction to introduce whatever legislation or rules or laws, whatever they want.
mhm.
And I certainly didn't understand the globalist predator class. I'm not saying I understand everything fully now, but it was truly an education during that entire time. And the propaganda
Right,
report was absolutely instrumental for me to figuring that out.
right,
And then, of course, finding a lot of really cool people who were also on that journey and
right.
some really good discussions there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's cool. So what was the point that you found them um during, like, where on the COVID spectrum was it when you found them?
So it was trying to think 2020-ish. We had gone out to Colorado. Like I said, I can't remember when. No, it was 2021. That's when we went out. We drove out to see my sister. She got married out there. And then on the way back, I was looking, like I said, I was looking through some podcasts, and that's when I found them. So kind of
Okay.
middle 2021.
Yeah, nice. And then I guess you ended up did you do the Patreon like disappearing patron parties and all that stuff?
I have not. I have not yet, or I didn't participate in those. I
Yeah.
wanted to back in the day, but I was just always busy
Yeah.
when it happened.
Yeah, you got a lot going on for
Hmm.
sure. So, all right. Well, so that was a little intro of the show, or how the show ended up coming about, and how we know you, Scott, and how long it's been. It's been quite a while,
Yeah.
and so it's cool. It's good to have you here.
Thanks.
Um, all right. So as far as our stories tonight, I will go ahead and talk about mine if you're good with that.
Sure.
And we can just have a little bit of discussion. And I'm just going to start out with a video. Um, we were talking about it a little bit before the show, and this is an odd one, as we talked about.
Hmm.
So let me get the bean footage rolling here, and we are going to. All right. I think I'm good on that. Let me share here. Okay. And Scott, just let me know in our chat if you can't hear this.
Sure. Goddamn Jews!
Okay. So I did not even know that last part was on there.
I can just hear Justin like ism cat.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. So I didn't know that last bit was on there. So anybody, if you're just listening to this, what that was a little montage from Chris at rant_rantcast. He's rained out rantcast, and he is partner, like a co-host with Steve over on the AM Wake Up. And this was a video that he shared on his timeline. And what it is is the raid that was all over the news yesterday from a Jewish school in New York City that was apparently raided because there were illegal tunnels there. So this is a really odd story. So let me just go over this, some of the highlights here, and we can see, what we think about this. But basically, the story I'm looking at is from Anthony Westgate. This is from his Substack. And the title of this is The Making of Mattress Gate, How the Chabad Tunnels Uncover a Dark Past of Jewish Ritual Sacrifice. And although I don't necessarily want to focus on that because I'm not a scholar in the history of what is happening in this situation, and in today's day and time, it's a little bit of a hot potato. I think that you need to tread carefully. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But I wanted to give a brief overview here. Is that underground tunnels have been uncovered in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, at the Chabad Ludovitz headquarters in a bizarre scene where Hasidic Jews were escaping through sewer grates and pulling apart the inner walls to prevent a cement truck from sealing off the entrances. And here's a little video that's embedded in this. So I'm going to share that. And this is not a funny one. It's just scenes from the raid or whatever you want to call it yesterday.
They're breaking through. They're breaking through. He wants you to throw it.
Okay, so I'm not going to play the entire thing. It's like 4 minutes. But what I wanted to focus on here in this particular part is that there are what appear to be two small, like kid size or twin size mattresses that they are pulling out. And then there's another video here of someone that appears to be escaping from the tunnels up onto the sidewalk on the streets of New York. And they push the person who's filming them away, and they run off. So this article says, videos surfaced of the event, which has led to both comical memes, but as speculation and independent investigation began, some very disturbing discoveries were made, including a number of suspiciously stained mattresses. This began what I only call Mattressgate. Some initial questions I have. Why are they hiding bloodied and or soiled mattresses in the walls? What are they hiding in the tunnels? Where do the tunnels lead to, and what are they being used for? And I feel like these are very valid questions concerning this issue. And this article says answers to these questions will remain within the realm of independent truth-seeking and, quote, conspiracy, since no official investigation will be launched. The current NPC narrative. Welcome, Justin. Hello. We're talking about the Hasidic Jews and the tunnels that were found.
The baby rape tunnels?
Okay, no. Cool it. So here we go. The current NPC narrative is that these tunnels were built during the COVID lockdowns so the Jews could continue worshiping. So Ian Miles Chong, and I'm going to call him a conservative Twitter grifter who doesn't even live in the United States, but is all over everything happening in the United States, says, for additional context, the Chabad built the tunnels during the scamdemic lockdowns so that they could practice their religion on the Sabbath and attend shul. Remember that during the lockdowns, it was illegal in New York to go to church or synagogue. Okay, so this author, Anthony Westgate, does not agree with that. He said, but this narrative has been debunked by Crown Heights editor last year, where it says the tunnels were built 6 months ago. This author notes that it's an interesting number. In another article from a couple weeks ago, photos are leaked of the tunnels where you can see the dirt was left inside the women's facilities, likely to not raise suspicions by excavating tons of dirt into the Brooklyn streets. Others have pointed out that photos suggest a much older construction, as the dampness and dirt along with the old world style sidewalks could not be consistent with a 6-month-old narrative. A mitzvah truck is parked outside a Chabad headquarters entrance where the man in the above video came out of the sewer. The man on the truck is the founder of the global Chabad Lubavitch network, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. The inevitable speculation that arises due to the lack of official explanation have largely suggested that the underground tunnels are for child trafficking ops. If this sounds far-fetched, let's take a look at some of the history of Jewish ritual murders. I will refrain from commentary and just present some findings. You can decide if this describes better what is going on underground in the tunnels of the Chabad synagogue. So I didn't necessarily want to get into the thought of the human sacrifice element. I don't feel educated enough in this to really talk with any confidence. I would suggest people check this article out on the Substack that is going to be in the show notes, as is the other article that I'm about to discuss. And I would just say to do your own research on this topic. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you that there's some interesting and weird things to do with this story. So then I go to the link that Anthony Westgate has in his Substack, and this is a Newsweek article that says secret tunnel under New York synagogue sparks chaotic scenes. So there was chaotic scenes inside a synagogue in New York City on Monday as a group of students tried to prevent a secret tunnel from being filled in. Officers with the New York Police Department were called to the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters at 770 Eastern Parkway in the Crown Heights neighborhood of Brooklyn on Monday afternoon after a, quote, group of individuals unlawfully entered the building by damaging a wall. An NYPD spokesperson told Newsweek. The group was seeking to stop construction filling in the tunnel, according to Jewish publication Forward. Videos that have gone viral on social media, which are like some of the ones that I showed here, show them ripping down wood paneling on a wall in the synagogue, with several men seen sitting or standing in the space behind it in an apparent attempt to stop the tunnel from being sealed off with cement. Other clips show them turning over wooden furniture and clashing with officers. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just wanted to go down kind of the last line. It said, the Chabad Lubavitch community is pained by the vandalism of a group of young agitators who damaged the synagogue below Chabad headquarters at 770 Eastern Parkway Monday night. These odious actions will be investigated and the sanctity of the synagogue will be restored. Okay, so I'm going to have this article linked. You can check it out for yourself, but I'm telling you that this does not answer the question at all about what was going on, how these tunnels were found, and who are unlawful. Because if you look at the videos, it appears that the only people that were here were the police and then the Hasidic Jews that were in this facility. So I'm going to play a little video from Raw Alerts on Twitter, and this shows some of the clashing that took place. Okay, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. There's a lot of videos out there available for people to check out, but basically this is a very odd situation. Again, I'm not making accusations. I am saying
I am.
Okay, we can get to that, but let me just say that in the video that I just played, it is only Hasidic Jews and the cops in this building. So who are the unlawful people? How were the tunnels found to begin with? Who was trying to fill them in with cement? what are they even talking about, right? It's a really, really weird situation. And then the other question that we talked about at the very beginning of this, Justin, is the stained mattresses. There was at least 2, and it was just super weird. And if they only, like, were they in there on COVID times? Were they in there the last 6 months? As some people are saying, this is just bizarre. Now, the other thing that I wanted to add to this is I think that we need to be looking out for what is the dialectic here. So I almost feel like this story is serving a couple of purposes in the news. And I think that one of them is a distraction from probably a lot of other nefarious shit that we're being distracted from right now, because there's a lot of distractions happening. This story is a big one. The Epstein client list is a big one. Miami aliens in the mall is a big one. So there's a lot of kind of these psyops going on that I think are trying to take us off the ball, but I also or take our eye off the ball. But I think that in this particular case, I think that they are intentionally trying to drum up anti-Jewish rhetoric with a lot of these weird stories that are in there. And this has been a theme that I've seen occurring over the last several months. And this was before the thing that happened on October the 7th as well. And so I feel like there's some larger play here. Now, obviously, I think that chaos and divide and conquer are tools of the establishment. We know that. So I think it plays into that a little bit. But I also think that for some reason, they're really trying to stoke the flames of anti-Jewish rhetoric. And whether that is to perhaps like bring in more like hate speech laws and things like that, it's probably, as we say, multifaceted, probably a lot of reasons. But anyway, so I just want to kind of get that out there, and then I'll turn it over to y'all.
Yeah, it's a weird whole situation. Like, are they trying to distract from like the Palestinian tunnels out in Israel or Gaza? It's like you said, there's more to the CI here.
That's a really good point too, because you could even be obscuring tunnel searches, like a Jewish tunnel.
It didn't seem like a coincidence to me that tunnels, and then now we have tunnels here, but it's Jews. So I don't know what's going on, but that's like it really does seem intentional.
Yeah.
Because again, how did they find it?
Yes, agreed. What even put this on the radar? And that's what we're not being told.
Did you guys see? There's someone online that said he tweeted like months and months and months ago saying that he's on the ground floor of an apartment building and he hears Jews underneath him, and he thought he was going crazy, and he actually posted proof that he said that, and he was like, "Look, I wasn't crazy. This actually happened."
So did you go to his Twitter account and confirm that? Because I did see that too. And then I saw some people, and I actually meant to double check it today. And I saw people saying this is debunked. So I don't know.
Well, as we all know, it is in fact illegal to post infactual information on the internet. So I'm just relying upon the current laws to ensure that I'm accurate.
Okay. Yeah, so I encourage people to check this out, though, and at least consider it from these different sides. And I really like what Scott said. The idea that this could be being used to bury other stories that they don't want to see. And I would say, like we talk about a lot, multifaceted, but I definitely think it's serving some kind of purpose, and it's a very bizarre story.
A lot of people are saying it's a distraction from the Epstein list. But as like all of us know, the Epstein list releasing is basically the same thing as voting. If it made any difference to anything, we wouldn't have seen it.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And the only thing that as far as the whole Epstein thing, yes, I actually think that that's just another distraction, another like, hey, look over here, look over here. But one thing that I did hear, and I thought was an interesting question about the Epstein list, was that perhaps this is being used by other factions in the DNC, specifically the Obamas, to interfere with the lives of the Clintons and basically smear Bill so Hillary won't have a chance at running and stuff like that. Now,
Oh,
yeah.
you think Big Mike's got a grudge?
Well, I don't know. I think it's an interesting point, and there is speculation out there that Michelle may run, and she just had comments stating that she was terrified about what 2024 was going to bring, or something like that.
Hilarious.
I feel like that could be setting her up for that. And on top of that, you just had, I believe it was JP Morgan, someone that speculated that Biden was going to be stepping down due to health reasons.
Yep.
So I definitely feel like these people might be making some money moves. Now, if there actually are warring factions between the Obama and the Clintons, I find that hilarious. I don't know if I buy that or not, because I suppose it's possible, because they're all employees though of the same, the same head of the octopus, basically.
Yep. The reptilian overlords. Yep.
Bingo.
Yep.
But yeah, so anyway, back to the tunnels. What else do you have on this? What else do you think?
I mean, I personally, knowing what I know about certain aspects of certain religions, I think it was baby rape tunnels.
Well, I think that a lot of people are speculating about child trafficking. I mean, I don't think it's off the table. I think it needs to be a consideration that is possible. What are they there for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's shady shit.
Yeah.
But
what
again,
about you, Scott? Oh, go ahead, Justin.
I was saying, but again, like why are they telling us about it? That's the question I really want to answer.
Exactly. Well, and I want to say that Jen believes that they are Talmudic scapegoats, divert, deflect. And I would say that is probably true. And this is actually something that Jen and I have talked about, and Owen Benjamin has posted about, that he thinks that they are setting up like the average everyday Jewish person to take the fall for something, or to draw the ire of people, I guess. And Jen and I both thought that was a reasonable theory, that they are trying to, in fact, create this anti-Jewish rhetoric, but it would be more of the regular Jewish person, as opposed to the Zionists or the reptilian overlords, the governments of Israel, the government of the United States, that kind of thing. So I think that is I think it's possible, So I think that we need to be careful, because as Justin was just saying, I think that it's being put there for a reason, and that we need to understand that purpose is manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what are they distracting us? Like, there's so many distractions right now. Just one after another, after another, after another. Yeah,
it's like the America's Next Top PSYOP. It's nonstop.
I really did like Nephilim in Miami, though. That was a fun one.
That was crazy.
That was a fun PSYOP, yeah. And actually, we should be keeping a journal of the PSYOPs so far. I mean, there's already been so many this year. We're not even out of January. And we have Epstein client list. We have Nephilim in the mall in Miami. We have the tunnel situation up in Brooklyn. And, it's only...
We're barely a week into the year.
It's just a week.
Yep.
It feels like it's at least been a month,
Yeah.
Well, I'll say I called it on Twitter. I said 2024 is going to be a hoot.
Yeah, I think you're not wrong about that. And they're just getting started, which is wild. Now, I'm going to say that my favorite PSYOP of 2023 was probably this is the least harmful, I think. Watch it come back to really bite us in the ass. But it was Chinese spy balloon, just a little balloon.
Mm-hmm.
The memes were fire, So those were like the good old days.
Yep.
Oh, well, I'll say I've really been enjoying the Epstein memes too, like the Stephen Hawking likes doing midgets doing complex math equations shirtless.
Those are crazy.
Yeah, some of the
and the fucked up part is, it's like like I could see him doing that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. Is it true?
I don't
The,
know.
the Krasenstein brothers, did they really fuck each other at Epstein's Island? I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody does know. I don't even want to think about that. Okay. So Jen also said that they primed people for all of this 2023 with the Epstein shit. Yes, I definitely think that they did. And I think that all of this has been, because we know how controlled the narrative is. So it's absolutely there for a purpose. And yeah, maybe the whole Epstein thing and maybe people breaking the story that Epstein is working for Mossad and Epstein is, the honeypot and the blackmail and all that stuff. Maybe that has all been laying the breadcrumbs to get to the point that we're at. And then including, the October 7th incident and all this stuff. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, to be sure. But we've spent enough time. Oh, go ahead.
Do you think that we're ever actually going to see like an ending, like like the end of the series, like they're finishing it off? It's not just canceled, so they actually explain the past 10 seasons worth of mystery.
Yeah.
Do you think we're ever going to have that?
No, I don't. And I think that's a really good question, actually. So this is what I compare it to. This is what I think, that we only are going to have the hindsight, the reflection and the benefit of hindsight and our own personal like discernment and conversations with each other and just keeping track of what's happening since then. And I think a good example, so Drizzle over at Grand Theft World Liberty Radio, we just put out a podcast where we interviewed him. So on his show, he would take, it was like the last maybe 2 months of the year. On one of the days, he would play the like 1 hour from Bill Cooper's broadcast on 9/11. Right. So then you could go back and listen to an hour of Bill Cooper's show on that day and hear what he said. And that is the only thing that we are going to be able to go by, is like, what does it look like 20 years later? What actually ended up happening in the 20 years? So I don't think that we're going to have a satisfactory season finale or series finale.
And keep in mind, when we're looking back 20 years from now, or like looking in 20 years forward, looking back, by that point they're gonna have AI that can just literally rewrite history.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And we might all have our brain chips, so we may not even remember it.
They'll change the entire broadcast about what he's saying, how he's saying it.
Sure. Yeah.
In real time.
That's
they
very
have
possible.
The masters.
Yeah, that's very possible. And something that we talked about on the WTF forum this past weekend was the Mandela effect. And so who knows if they're not already doing that? Like, what if there really is something with CERN and all this crazy stuff? Like the story that was discussed is how this woman was tripping out about the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia and how they were like, no, there's never been a cornucopia. There's never been a cornucopia. And apparently this woman was like really, she was very affected by this. And she actually ended up digging and found an old piece of clothing that had the cornucopia on it. But if you pull up the Fruit of the Loom, all the logos, you don't see the cornucopia. Why would that be? That's so,
They're fucking gaslighting us.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of the conclusion. Yeah. So who knows, but it's weird times. That's for sure. Yeah. So buckle up for 2024. So enough about that. Why don't we go to Scottski's story and hear what he has to say?
Sure. Yeah, I was hoping Stella would be on. This was probably right up her alley here. Let me see if I can share my screen. If I can figure that out here.
And if you want, you can drop the link and I can pull it up.
Yeah, let me just do that. I don't
also
anything up here.
Make sure all the right tabs are closed. Whatever you do is share screen.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I don't got any naughty ones open.
And before we move on, I did want to say, so Jen was saying that Robert Maxwell worked for the Serbian and Albanian two-headed eagle mob too, not just Israel, and former KGB or the equivalent in over in that part of Europe. So I do think that, yes, there's some very interesting stuff to be found with this. All right. So let me get to Scott's story and I will pull this up. And this is out of the Brussels Times. Bear with me, Scott. I'm pulling it up.
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah, so I thought this one was kind of ironic here. So the UN, the Brussels headquarters over there, they temporarily closed their headquarters because they ran out of funds. And if you read into the article a little bit, it talks about like how their exorbitant energy costs are one of the reasons why they can't afford to keep the office open. So if you know like what's going on over there with all their energy crisis, they're cutting oil and natural gas, etc. And they're really going to the green energy over there. Just that whole headline, I just find it very, very ironic. Like, hey, we can't afford to keep our office open because of our own policies. So
yeah,
I just thought that was kind of hilarious.
Yes, I would agree with you. Now, what I think about this is that they could even be doing this to say like, oh, well, regular energy is too expensive. We better go, solar. Like I wouldn't be surprised if
Right.
it was another type of psyop just to put another breadcrumb in energy, like whatever they're trying to do with energy, which is basically just like you said, do the whole green energy, get away from electricity? What are they going to do?
Mhm.
I don't, know what I mean? It makes no sense.
Yeah. Or they're just virtue signaling, like, hey, we can't afford to stay open, so we're just gonna make all our employees work from home for a little bit,
Yeah. So is that what the article says, that they basically just had people working from home?
Yeah, if you scroll down in there, yeah, it says that they temporarily relocated their employees remotely, and it's like for a couple weeks, but still, it's like their own policies like made their office shut down. So I found that very like ironic.
I do find it interesting that this comes at the same time that they were just talking about our federal government shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
And I had another thing I was going to say, but I forgot.
That's true. That is true. That's an interesting overlap, that it would happen at the same time. That
just
the
in
whole
time
government,
that, like, hey, if you're about to refund government, like if you got to fund the UN too.
Yep. I like how it says the U.S. is behind on its payments to their headquarters. Like, no, we're not. We shell out how many billions a year? Like, come on.
Yeah.
We fund that office. Come on.
100%. So what else are they saying? Are they back up and running or what?
In looks like a couple days they'll be back up, looks like, unless they decide to postpone a little bit longer, which hopefully they postpone permanently, but that's wishful thinking, right?
Yes, I do think that is wishful thinking, but a good wish nonetheless.
Yeah.
Welcome once again to.
But yeah, just an interesting article from our globalist overlords there closing one of their offices.
Yeah, I do think that was weird. I do wish that it was a more permanent solution. Obviously, I think that the UN is the enemy of the people. So,
Yep.
But yeah, that's funny. I'll be curious to see if you end up seeing anything else about that.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, would love to see those guys close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's their big one too.
Yeah.
Oh, the main one.
The palace over there. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. If I had to guess, I would say it's some kind of psyop for some kind of reason.
Probably.
But that's what I think about most of the stuff that gets put out there.
Just looking at the building upsets me.
Yeah.
Just the amount of productive wealth that's sucked out of society into the hands of these fucking
predators.
People.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Agreed.
You will eat the bugs.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, go ahead, Justin.
I will say though that you're not going to be able to eat the bugs because with all the pesticides everyone's spraying everywhere. Sorry, my computer's glitching out.
It's all good.
Too many tabs open.
Yes, I agree. We're not going to want to eat the bugs. And this is something that Stella has talked about quite a bit because there's something in them that can actually be highly allergic.
Yeah,
I think it
that's
may even
chitin.
be, yes, CHITIN.
That's the
And
stuff that's found in like shellfish, right? Some people
Yeah,
make
exactly.
the up
it's
shellfish
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
it's basically the chemical that they make their like exoskeletons out of.
Gotcha.
That shit.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that makes them sound like aliens, which is kind of cool,
Probably
but it doesn't make me want to eat it.
gives it that good crunch.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
The truth is out there, man. Yep.
Yeah,
Cheers.
have a little crunch with your
Mhm.
anaphylactic shock and your bug poisoning.
Yep.
Little crunch and munch.
Crunch munch.
Yep.
So before we move on to Justin's story, I did want to ask Scottski, because this is one of the things in the propaganda report Discord, people will share what they're drinking.
Mhm.
So Scott, why don't we take a little commercial break and tell us what you're having tonight?
Commercial break. So I'm drinking a double IPA from Hop Butcher, which is right outside Chicago. It's called Value at Midnight. Double IPA. Really, really good IPA. Nice and bright, citrusy. So
I
Mr.
can
Beer Connoisseur here.
Yes, I can taste the bitter hops from here.
Yep. Yep.
For me, I'm having my sparkling mineral water. And what about you, Justin? Anything?
I have this lovely selection of red cream soda from Kroger.
Oh, so that sounds kind of good. Does that mean it's like strawberry cream,
It's
or it's just red?
yeah, it's like a like a strawberry cream soda, I guess. It kind of just tastes like chemicals, but it's delicious chemicals.
Right, I get it. Like a little Debbie cake, right?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
like
it's
one of those
good,
things
but
that's been chemically engineered just to make you go, I want more of that.
yes,
It doesn't really have a flavor per se.
right.
Yep.
That said, it's delicious.
I would try it. I would definitely try it. Here's the weird thing. So I try not to do soda and stuff like that, but then when I got sick at Christmas, I just really wanted Coca-Cola. And so I've been on a little bit of a Coca-Cola kick
Yeah.
lately,
The problem with
unfortunately.
that is they're like $9 a 12-pack anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even worse, I would just go through Chick-fil-A and get a Coke.
There you go. You know what? Like Chick-fil-A, and not to knock, McDonald's, their Coke is actually really damn good. So
It is. And I think McDonald's and maybe even Chick-fil-A, they actually have some sort of storage and transportation system in order to make it specifically taste that good. That's
Mhm.
why it's the best tasting Coke that you're going to get.
See,
yeah.
I always just thought that it tasted different because like the ice in the Coke machine all had that like grease, like McDonald's flavor to it. I thought it just kind of like sapped into the drink because to me it just tastes like Coke and double cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to do with like what they actually store the Coke in before it's mixed, like a specific kind of container. So they've got the balance with the carbonation and all that stuff that
Yeah.
keeps it fresh. And I don't know, whatever they do, it's really tasty.
It is delicious. McDonald's over the summer too. They had the frozen Coke. I don't know if you ever had that.
No.
It was like a Coke slushy. That stuff was really damn good.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll be on the lookout for that. I usually
Yeah.
don't go to McDonald's, but I could make one exception.
Hmm.
I went to McDonald's and Taco Bell today.
There you go.
Was one
But-
for breakfast and one for lunch?
Lunch and dinner. But I was drinking a vitamin water with it, so it balances out.
There you go.
It does balance out. Justin is very
Uh,
healthy.
A sugar-free vitamin water.
HELTHY.
Mhm.
Sugar-free.
Even better. Okay, so now that we've had our little commercial break, Justin, why don't you tell us what you got for us?
Well, thank you to our sponsors and our sponsors, Ashley and Scottski.
Cheers.
So I actually got one from a little bit ago that I never got to because I started being real flaky. But from December 1st in The Atlantic, the headline's just, inflation is your fault. If people are so mad about high prices, why do they keep buying so many expensive things? And this ties back into what we were saying earlier. They're just fucking gaslighting us at this point. Like, it's kind of like, what was that movie where the rich office guy traded jobs for a day with the
trading places?
Yeah. It's basically like they're just betting $1 and watching it for their own amusement.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. Now, partially, I would say that inflation that's kind of true, actually, though, because it is people's fault. Because not that they could have done anything about it, but they're not even awake to the scam. So whenever the lockdowns happened and they started printing all this money for the stimmy checks, then that was really a game changer, because it wasn't long after that, and they were working that angle simultaneously with the supply chain shortage angle, and now you have groceries that are like 3 times what they were.
Mm-hmm. And when did all that money printing start? That was under Trump, in his last year in office.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, it's going to happen in a couple of years, and then here we are. Like, everything's like exorbitantly priced. So
yes,
it's ridiculous.
So I don't really blame people, but I am frustrated that the average person is not catching on to what got us here. I do have some sympathy for them, because I know that they are distracted. People are busy. Times are hard. And people have sort of been taught to think that, like, your only escape, your only luxury is kind of tuning out to what's happening. And I also think that they make it really difficult with a lot of BS stories. Like, if you wanted to keep up with the news and really know what was going on, starting from nothing, it would be really hard as a regular person. Like, you wouldn't even know maybe where to start to see through the bull.
Even when you start getting going, there's so much of it. So it was, I don't even know how long ago it was that they went through and killed like 100 million chickens across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Egg prices were like $12 for a fucking dozen. And that just seems so long ago that if you were reading that chronologically, you're just going to progressively be more like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes. And I remember there were even memes, and it would say, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't say anything, but there would be signs. And it would have people with their grocery cart filled up with eggs. That was
right.
Because yes, that was, and these things I think are artificially manufactured. Like, obviously they wanted to affect the supply chain. They wanted to affect the food chain. And they also wanted to, I think, just send the message to people, like more of the demoralization of, look how expensive this everyday item is. And it used to be super cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then it seems obvious, but it almost seems like it's too obvious when they're just like, go around, kill all the birds so egg prices spike up. Everyone gets pissed off the egg prices are up, and then no one's pissed off at the government for negligence.
Exactly. And it's not negligence, in my opinion. It is intentional. And for using because what they use to diagnose the swine flu or whatever their excuses is the same thing that they used during the COVID scam, which is PCR test.
Yep. I was just going to say that. Yep. They have it set so low. It's like, if there's one false reading, like, hey, we have to kill the entire flock, which is like millions of birds. Like, come on.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's
even
crazy.
If you grant government best case scenario, at best case, it was pure negligence. And then they just still say, fuck me again, daddy.
Pretty much.
that is true. Even if it was just negligence, they still aren't catching on to what Legal Man talks about this all the time. He's like, it never gets better. You keep thinking if you just get the right person in office that the situation is going to get better. Is that Dave?
That's Dave. Yep.
Okay.
He's the dog cat. He's always in your face.
If you can't see everyone, that was Dave. That was Scott's, one of his little kittens. What is the other kitten's name?
Kevin.
And then
Kevin and Dave.
We also have Justin's kitty cat. What is her name?
Since we're showing off kittens, this is Fudge. She just got her pussy removed.
Hi, Fudge.
so she's still a little tired.
Yeah.
And she was literally asleep peacefully underneath my desk, and then I woke her up to show her off to the world.
Poor little baby.
Hi, kitty.
Yeah, she's sweet. I love cats. Okay, so this is another thing. Whenever me and Stella were doing the show and one of my cats would make an appearance, usually Tommy, because he's the one, my older one, the big one. He likes to walk on my keyboard and get around on the microphone and stuff. And she would run the banner that I taught Putty Tat. Here it is.
I taught Putty Tat. He's back.
Hashtag little Tommy Kitten.
Say hi.
So
say hi.
Kevin and what is
Dave.
the other one? Kevin and Dave.
Yep.
And
my
then
minions. My minion kitties.
yes, and then Justin has Fudge and Loki. But Loki doesn't really come around that much when you're podcasting, does he?
No, he's very independent. They're complete opposites. This one, she's sweet as can be, wants to be petted and loved all day, every day. The other one, he's just off doing cat stuff, man.
It's just aloof, yeah.
Yeah.
This one, whenever we have people come over, he is like right in your face, like this. Like, pet me, damn it.
That's so cute. Yeah, ours are pretty standoffish. They're not like the most I mean, they want some attention, but it's only on their terms. It's definitely not constant. And if you wanted to go pick them up and pet them, no, it's just not. They're not aggressive or anything, but they're gonna take off.
Yeah, that's most cats, I think, anymore.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that.
Like this one, she sleeps on top of my head on the pillow.
So she sleeps with you all night?
On and off.
Yeah.
She's a sweetheart.
She is sweet.
We haven't gotten to that point yet. We lock them out of the room because when the lights go off, they just go like ape shit.
Yeah, they go crazy.
So what I started doing, and I'm sure this is riveting conversation, is once I get home from work, so you know 5, 6, something like that, she's not allowed to go to sleep until I go to sleep.
Yeah,
she sleeps right through the night.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good rule. Yeah, so I did want to say over in the chat, Jen said, agree with Justin, intentional. I'm assuming I missed whenever he said that. I'm assuming that was about the inflation, the egg prices, food prices, and all of that stuff. And yeah, I would agree. And it's really frustrating because obviously people's jobs are not being, your pay is not being increased at the rate of inflation, certainly of groceries and things like that. And then, home buying, things like that have also become really difficult to attain, especially when you look at the home price bubble that still appears to be there. In addition, so I guess that would be attributed to inflation, but that was happening before all this too. It's a weird situation. And then you have high interest rates, 7-8%. What was that, Justin?
We're looking like 2008's gonna look like it was luxury,
right?
People, like the average person is hurting, and I don't think a lot of the higher classes realize that, and they think everything's just going along dandy. And people are gonna start hurting soon, and there's gonna so many people are behind on their car payment that their cars aren't getting repoed because there aren't enough tow drivers to repo all of the cars that need repoed.
Right.
And on top of that, no one's buying cars. They've already bought one over the past couple of years, or they can't afford one.
Right. Or they're fixing up their current car for a little bit.
Yeah, jobs are going away. AI's taking a lot of just administrative jobs. They're taking over fast food jobs. I just saw a fully automated McDonald's in Colorado, I think it was.
Yep, I saw that too.
No
employees. It's pretty bleak.
Probably a 5-star McDonald's. Probably going to get you the right order, and it's going to be perfect and fresh every single time.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a really concerning situation. And I think that although I would encourage people to check out Angry Tiger and his financial report that he does, I think on Sunday evening, But he talks about this stuff quite a bit and is certainly a lot more educated on it than I am. But I definitely think that there's a lot of debt that's being purchased in order, and it has to be from what he refers to as whales. So it would be like the Federal Reserve or something like that that's purchasing debt to sort of keep this market afloat. But at some point, the Pied Piper has to be paid. And maybe there's a specific event, a specific time frame that the powers that shouldn't be are waiting for to do that in order to maybe start trying to implement the one world digital currency, the central bank digital currency, or what have you. I don't know, but I tend to believe that they're going to keep it propped up until they're ready to let the dominoes fall.
So, this is not financial advice. However, Jim Cramer is saying that Bitcoin is topping out, and I don't believe that man has ever been right once. So,
yeah, I'm pulling up that article right now.
I would say Bitcoin is probably something that a lot of people could stand to buy.
Yep.
Yes, I think that there's definitely a meme out there about Jim Cramer. Basically, okay, so the article even says Cramer picks have the tendency to move in the opposite direction he touts. So basically, whatever he says, do the opposite.
So again, this is not financial advice. I will say I own a large amount of Bitcoin, and I would say it's probably not a bad investment to at least have a few bucks stored in.
Mm-hmm.
To the moon.
That's
Only
what I
one way
got.
up.
I have like $8 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, Justin and I were hoping for a long time that our Dogecoin and our Shiba Inu coin were going to go to the moon, but so far it hasn't happened.
I sold all mine. Yep.
See, and here's the thing. If you don't sell, you don't lose.
Yep.
So the interesting about Dogecoin is that it actually was peaking because Elon was propping it up. Remember, he used to always talk about Dogecoin. Then it was like going up, 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 up. And then he had his appearance on Saturday Night Live, and that was sort of the peak. And after that, it dropped off. And now he never talks about Dogecoin anymore.
That was right when I bought it.
Yep.
At the peak?
Yep.
Well, I bought it right before it was at like 34 cents, and then I was on vacation when he went on Saturday Night Live, and it went up to like 76 cents, and then it just like crashed after that. I'm like, shoot.
Yeah, it totally crashed after that. So that was a fun psyop.
Yeah.
But some people actually made a good amount of money, and I remember
I think Wall Street Bets is where the game stonks happened.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was a fun psyop too.
It was.
That AMC.
I really like that one.
Yeah, the AMC and what else was it? Was it Dogecoin?
Shiba
Coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun psyop as well.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I still own over 3 million Shiba coin. So you never know. I have more faith in a retarded meme coin than I have in the US dollar.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad idea, you know. I don't.
I just stick with my beers. My beer never lets me down. So
yeah, it's like you take $100. You know, leave it in 10 years, see if anything happens. It's only $100.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's true. That is very true. You never know. All right. Well, I think we are right about our hour mark here. So unless there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, anything else that you want to bring up, other than that, I think we've covered a couple of good things, some interesting food for thought here.
Yeah.
Can we go around and make a guess real quick? How long until the next distraction from the tunnels?
Okay, I'll go
36
first.
hours.
Yes, that's basically what I was going to say, is that pretty much it seems like it's like a 48-hour kind of timeline that they're like circling, right? So you have that, and then you have some overlap and overlap and overlap. So that's my prediction. 36, 48 hours.
Yep. Yep.
Do we want to take our guess on what Friday might be? I'm going to go with oh shit, I don't even know, man. Argentina invades Mexico.
Okay, so that's a good point, because the other thing that I wanted to mention was the Alaska Airlines distraction, like the window blowing out or something. Brad covered that on the Prop Report, and it is such a ridiculous story that, like, apparently a kid lost their shirt, like the shirt was taken off the kid, and cell phones were lost and all this stuff. So that's been another distraction. So who knows? What, it could be anything. You know what I mean? Remember last year we had the Titanic sub, or whatever,
the
that little,
submersible.
the submersible. We had a balloon. We had a couple of big, foreign war type things be into the picture. That October is whenever the Israeli Palestine conflict really popped off. So we had East Palestine, the train crash. So who knows? Like, it literally could be anything.
Don't forget
Yep.
the Olympics are this year in France, which they've turned into or was it Paris? One or the
Paris,
other. Oh,
Paris is in France. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I was confused. So yeah, the Olympics are in Paris. They've turned that place into a third world country, prime opportunity for some massive psyops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jen's guess is 2 days as well. So I'm going to ask him, what is his prediction
I'm going to give it till
for
Friday.
next psyop? Okay.
Well,
And then what about, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't actually watch the news, so I'm only going to know when it's over from memes, when the memes stop. So there might be a little bit more memes before the next story comes up.
But you'll know, like, the accounts that you follow on Twitter, they have the dopest memes, so you'll know what's going on just from that alone. All right, so what about you, Scott? Do you have prediction for America's next favorite psyop?
I kind of thought, like, crossed my mind, another Chinese spy balloon. I mean, we need more memes, so we need to have another spy balloon come over.
Well, the Epstein memes, as Justin said, the Epstein Stephen Hawking memes were pretty good.
Mhm.
The tunnel memes are pretty good.
You got to just believe in all of them.
Yep.
Also, I did want to say that as Justin brought up the Olympics this year, so Mark Claire and Pete Q did an interview of their predictions for 2024. And one of those predictions was that something is going to pop off probably at the Olympics in Paris, because they thought that it would be a good opportunity. First of all, you have a worldwide stage. You could even bring in, like, the Muslim angle, that seed has already been planted there because of what happened in Paris with the riots and stuff this summer from, I guess, Muslim immigrants. I don't know. Or
I
Muslim.
think it's basically like the southern border. It's from everywhere.
Okay. So, but anyway, so they were making a point that this was a good opportunity and a good place if they wanted to pull a really big one, especially if they wanted to bring in Iran into the conflict. As we know that Iran is on the list for sure. It's like the one that has yet to fall in the Middle East. So I thought that was an interesting prediction. Also, Stella and I did an episode with Jen, and he has posted that on his podcast, which is Threshold Saints over on Spotify. And we actually talk about the 2024 Olympics and the association. Now, that conversation was a little more in the esoteric realm of, like, the association with Jupiter and Zeus and the Olympics, and sort of how, like, Paris is this very occult kind of city. So just wanted to shout that out after bringing up the Olympics. And I think that if you look back, we talked about this, but it was maybe like 8 years ago, or maybe even 12 years ago, 2012 Olympics. I don't remember, but it was one where they had a really weird opening ceremony, and there was like all these nurses, and it looked like predictive programming for the COVID pandemic. So I think that the opening ceremonies for this one, Stella shared a video, and it looks amazing. Like, it's going to be all along the Seine River and all of these different stops and locations. But I think there's going to be a lot of things to pay attention to in the opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
I like curling.
Yeah.
Curling it's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so Jen said, I don't know, but I will say this last one with the Haddadis got a lot of meme warriors. Yes, it definitely, this one, the memes were very, very big in regards to this tunnel situation, the tunnel psyop, as I want to call it, or mattress gate, as Anthony Westgate was calling it. And Jen said he does agree with Pete Q and Mark Claire on this one. So he thinks that it is ripe for big false flag.
Could be a hoot.
Yep.
It could
Get
be,
your popcorn ready.
but maybe if we're calling it out now, then they'll realize that people are onto them, and maybe it'll kick the can down the road.
Meeting the unknowns, busting the globalists.
You know it. Predator class. Yeah. So Justin, did you give us your prediction? So Scott said he thinks that we might have another spy balloon on our hands.
Yep.
And we all said we think about the 36, 48 hours when the next PSYOP's going to drop. Or maybe less now because it's already been 24 hours for the tunnel gate. What about you, Justin?
Well, I saw someone post that if you inverse the latitude and longitude of the mall in Florida, it's actually the middle of Antarctica. So they got the numbers mixed up when the aliens teleported here.
Yep, I did see that actually.
So I'm thinking maybe by Sunday, they've taken over the entire planet.
There you go.
Okay. And is it Project Bluebeam?
Mm.
Or is it the real aliens? Or was it truly like a flash mob at the mall?
Well, and if anyone actually does double check the coordinates on the Miami Mall in Antarctica, definitely let us know.
Yeah, please do. I would be very, very curious.
I'm not going to look. I'm just going to choose to believe it's real. Life's just more fun that way.
I want to believe. There you go.
Yes,
X-Files.
the truth is out there. Yeah.
Yep.
All righty. Well, I guess that is it. We've covered some interesting topics, and I want to thank Scott for coming on with us. Scott, it's been a lot of fun. I hope you have enjoyed your first episode of Not Your Mom's News.
Yes, absolutely. I'm no longer a podcast virgin, so yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to be back at some point. So
yes, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, it's been really, really fun having you here.
Yeah.
And Justin, thank you for joining us as well.
Hey, better late than never, right?
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You hurt your kitty cat?
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good
Fudge.
night.
I woke up just to tell you good night.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate that. And we will look forward to seeing you next time. And
take care.
Yeah. Unknowns over and out. Good night.
Yep. Later.
Sorry, I'm trying to do our closing here. Here we go.
Not Your Mama's News has been a production of the Union of the Unknowns podcast. New episodes are available weekly on all your favorite podcasting networks.